Not hearing any citizens, we'll proceed to item 4, consideration of possible action on completing officers' reports and estimates of needs for the following accounts and sub-accounts. It'd be the commissioners, general government, insurance employee expenses, charity, and highway levy.
And commissioners, before we get started, I forgot one, and that is the county audit account. However, that is deemed by statute that 1/10, 1 mil has to go there, so it's, we kind of have no option with it.
I agree, unless we want to put more in there, I mean, that's pretty much a standard.
Yeah.
But we still need to submit a report, but I think we can just do that because we're set. I mean, there's no
Change.
So let's start on general government. Seems that's the first one.
Yeah, since it's on top.
Our personal services last year, we put in there $30,940. So we're going to carry over 380, which is not much carryover. So I guess this is where always, last year was 390,000 is actually, or 30,940. If we plan on giving them a raise, you know, always budget for it.
Right.
And just to clarify, since Marvin hadn't done this before, this particular account is the one that Paul, the custodian, is paid from.
And the 30,940, we had transferred 240 into it for a safety award and then 500 for comp time. So the original amount was 30,200.
I should, last year, we had 26,000 in personnel services, 5,000 in part-time.
Yeah, we carry that
400
5,000.
410,000 in maintenance and operation, 175,000 in the governmental, for a total of $616,000. Am I reading that right?
Imagine.
For the whole general, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just looking at it account by account right at the
Individually.
moment.
It'll be that top sheet that
I was just starting off in personal services.
Right.
it's broken down by
Yeah.
account.
Well, it kind of is here too, sort of.
But you had 26 what
Here's the
on personal services?
Here's the little ledger from the budget that was submitted to SA&I last year for general government. This is the whole thing.
For 2014, 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
On this one, it shows that the personal services was 26,000.
The transfers is what pushes the total budget.
Pushed it up to 30.
Mm.
And we transferred because why?
We had to pay out his comp time, he'd reached the limit, we had to pay it down. And then where the safety award comes in is a transfer in. We cover everyone's safety awards and then we go from the safety award account back to all the salary accounts to reimburse.
Yeah. The safety award, that's an optional
Right.
funding, funding, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess what I'd like to know is what do we pay him?
His current wage is $22.50 a month. And historically, we ask for a $100 a month raise for,
Does that include the fringe and all the other costs associated?
that is
No,
just
that's
the gross salary.
So the gross salary is all that comes out of the general fund, or does everything come out of it?
Out of this particular account, 2000-1110 is just the salaries.
So his salary is what again?
It's currently $22.50 a month.
I think we ought to up that to 2350.
So 27 a year. So if we budgeted,
It would, yeah. However, I would also, he tends to earn a lot of comp time, it's just the hours he puts in, and we usually, at least once a year, have to pay down. So if you take his monthly wage at $23.50 and then add maybe $1,000 to the total to cover the comp time expense.
so we're talking about 29.2. Am I doing my math right?
Yeah, no, I got, yeah.
27 is what it's getting now without fringe.
Right. And I just added 1,200 and made it 28, and she wanted to add 1,000 to cover for if we have to pay down the comp time,
Make it 29.
so 29.2.
Who approves the expenditure of comp time? For him?
You mean the cashing it out?
Who approves him accumulating comp time? How's that approved?
It hasn't been as a monthly thing. The hours that he keeps, I mean, the commissioners are well aware, he comes in and usually starts at 6:30 to 7 in the morning.
Yeah, I'm one of the commissioners,
I-
I'm asking because I'm not aware yet.
I understand. He tries to get in and do a lot that is difficult to do when you're open for business. So he comes in and starts that early to do the power washing, clean up, mop floors, get the bathrooms done, get that stuff done that's really hard to do when you're open. Since we went from 2 custodians to 1, Paul works with a trustee. We put together a plan to work with the sheriff's office that saved the county about $30,000 a year. So by the time he starts at 6:30, 7 in the morning, 5 days a week till 4:30, it accumulates.
I wouldn't have a big problem with the $100 a month raise, even though I think our times of growing budgets are over. I do have an issue with open-ended comp time with an employee able to put in whatever hours they believe they want to and then get reimbursed for comp time. I think comp time should be something that should be pre-approved in advance.
How long does he have the trustee for? When does he usually have him, and when does he return?
Because it's an open-ended check that we don't know how much it's gonna cost us. We can't budget it.
And I understand. It will vary depending on the sheriff's department situation. When we started the program, we actually only got him for about 3 hours a day. Now we're probably about 4 or 5 hours a day.
And according to the handbook, we have a limit of 240, right?
That's federal law.
Yeah, 240 hours of comp time you can only accrue 240 hours according to federal law if we have to start paying.
So at like
But-
4 o'clock, if we have a spill or something of that nature, is he has to respond
problem-
to that, is that correct?
And we have spoke before, the problem about letting him start early and then stopping early is when on court days and such, you still have bathrooms that they tend to plug up or things that happen that you need someone to take care of. So that's kind of been the problem with adjusting his hours to start early and leave early, earlier than 4:30 is, when
Right.
we typically still have things directed around the court system and what
Right.
happens when the building's full with court people that the custodian gets called to take care of.
Do you normally open the doors, or does he normally open the doors?
We are not allowed to open the doors. The deputies actually are the ones that open the
I
doors.
see, I see. So there's an accounting to that?
Pardon me?
If he comes in early, does he open the doors?
He has a key. They're not left unlocked.
But I mean, is there any way to establish that, yes, he is at work at 6:30?
His rules are that, one, I see him because I come in earlier than he does generally.
That's what I
But he's
thought.
also instructed that he has to text me and let me know that he's on the job, and if he's not.
So he's supervised.
That was something this board, prior to this commissioner,
Sounds like not always physically supervised, but
put on to me several years ago, is I was the one on site, the commissioners aren't, so.
Well, just to cover his wages now, we're gonna have 27,000.
Right.
And if we budgeted for raise, that would be 22.
and then he does get comp time. So let's go for 1,000 for that.
Well, we could cut the comp time out.
I don't think we need a budget for comp time. I think we need to approve comp time before it's ever allowed or paid.
Maybe
So
we just need to
it'll be-
manage it.
I think we
It'll
need to
be a
manage it.
transfer of funds whenever that occurs,
If it occurs, yes, sir.
when that occurs.
Okay. So if we've already assumed
Unless you
that,
want the dirty bathrooms.
if we've already assumed that we've got more work to do than one man can do without drawing comp time, maybe we should look at hiring another person.
And at one time, we did have two. The financial came up with, like I said, I set up a program with the sheriff that allows us to use a trustee. Eliminating that wage also eliminated the fringe, the cost of retirement, the cost of insurance that an actual employee drives.
I'm with you. Comp time's a real, I think,
So
a
if
bad
we
thing for the
want to go
county.
to 2 people, then we're going to need to budget for what, about 60? Well, 55,000.
I absolutely understand what
Yeah.
where Marvin's going. I think our problem is you have a job that effectively is 10 to 10 and a half hours a day rather than a normal 8, just because of the circumstances. If we can work around that, we can, but if I don't have him there, and I don't even want to give you descriptions, you all have imaginations as to what some angry people leave the courtroom and can do in the public bathrooms or such that have to be cleaned up, you know. So not having someone available for that period of time has not been a real good option either.
Well, let's look at it this way. Let's budget for 28.2.
Okay.
That'd be given a $100 raise. Our next line item would be part-time help. Last year, we put 5,000 in an account. We didn't use any of it. So if we decided to allow him to do the comp time, we could always transfer the money out of the part-time to cover that, or we could hire someone
Part-time.
to knock out the workman's comp.
Yeah, I don't want to sound unempathetic to somebody that has this job for us here, because I will tell you, my grandfather was the custodian for Garfield County Courthouse all his life that I remember him working. He didn't make a lot of money, but he was real proud of his job. He did a good job there too. But the empathy part, open-ended comp time is a problem for me. It puts an unfunded mandate on the county, right? So all county employees go up to 240 hours of comp time, and they've all got that. What kind of liability does that
I
put on the county?
absolutely
financially?
agree,
Right.
and comp
That's a
time
bad,
is
bad
considered a
thing.
liability financially. I absolutely understand that. I just don't know how to work his hours to keep everything covered.
28 what?
28.2.
28.2 would pay him what he's making now, plus a $100 a month raise if we'll have to give him a raise.
Okay.
Unless we go with someone that's part-time,
But,
too,
on the-
and use up that 5,000.
So-
We just
so-
kept that open as possible.
But on the workman's comp end of it, I mean, the way to handle that is manage it a little
Comp
better.
time.
Yeah, comp time, and don't let him
Yes,
accumulate.
yes, I agree. I'm with you.
I mean,
That's
it ain't so
exactly what
much-
I'm looking for.
It ain't so much the comp time, it's just don't let him accumulate that much comp time.
So possibly a solution is I could ask the court clerk for a docket calendar and perhaps days that we don't have that as an issue, because that really drives our big issue. Maybe I could work him half a day and let him use
It's comp.
earlier in the week what was earned from the longer days, use it up in the manner of the time off. Maybe one way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's-
Try to keep him as low on that 40-hour work week as possible, but let me adjust per court docket. Is that something that we could look at?
I'd like to discuss it as we go on, to look at it.
20,200.
28.2. So let's make sure I've done the math right. He currently is 22.50 per month times 12. Get it there.
Mhm.
That ought to be 27,000. Add 1,200, that'd be 28.2.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. Everyone,
You're making as much as one of my dozer operators, but go ahead.
you need your dozer operator raise.
How can you get another dozer operator?
So we're gonna give him 20, or we're gonna budget 28 too, everybody good with that?
Good.
You got that penciled in, Cynthia?
And then 5,000 on part-time help, keep that open.
Is that something we wanna keep open, or?
What, if we budget for it, what do we have in mind for the use?
Well, my thinking was something come up where he's getting too much comp time, or just like he's been off on, medical leave.
That's
We
right.
could have hired, might have had to hire someone, but Jim's letting us still have the deputy or the reserve.
Very limited, but we have had.
So, I mean, that was my thing when we first done it, it's in case we had to hire someone part-time to cover for him.
Exactly.
But, like I say, Jim let us have the trustees, so.
Well, what's the chances, likelihood, I guess, of next year needing $5,000 for part-time? We need 5, or we need 2, we need 3, just to allocate. I mean, anything we allocate here is coming out of,
Right. I tell you what, I
$1,000 here, $1,000 there, pretty soon you're talking about real money.
I think at the time the 5,000 was put in there for last year, it was also an anticipation of maybe a part-timer to back Cynthia up, and then it just didn't become necessary. But I think that was the intent when it was put in last year.
I think we've kind of unofficially worked through a backup for making Cynthia a little bit. I don't have a problem sending
Done what?
that young lady that we've got over here to help when she needs it.
Okay.
So it comes down to what you want to do with that account.
Well, we need to leave it open.
But the only way it can be active to even move money in or out is it has to have $5 to be considered an account.
Well, let's double that.
well, when you wanna cut it in half, 2,500, just in case?
Yeah, I think so.
And then depend
We
upon the
didn't
sheriff
use it
for
last time.
Right.
any
never-
kind of part-time help that we might need.
So we tell the fellow we're giving him $100 raise, and please do your best, like you've been doing. I like it. 2,500.
So you don't want to keep a grand in there just in case?
2,500 would be
2,500.
2,500.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so cut that in half to 2,500?
So good.
On the maintenance and
For
operation?
maintenance operations, that's a wild shot right there.
No question.
Our original appropriation was $410,000 last year.
We transferred over 24,500. General government's so hard. Almost everything I do comes out of general government. So we were falling short for this month. So I had asked Troy for some more money to keep us covered for
You all
this
approved
month.
that transfer last week.
Yeah, how much total with what we allocated last year was 410, and then how much extra did we need this year?
We transferred 24,500 to be on the safe side. Because we can't go over on our general government accounts after the
Right.
15th.
So,
One thing to bear in mind is that is also the account that pays the property and liability insurance. We have not seen the bill for it yet. However, workman's comp, and I have an email, went up 5%. I would anticipate that property and liability probably did as well. And last year was 164,000.
Yeah, and then I'm asking to keep all the money that's, as of yesterday's date, all the money that's there to keep it in reserve. Because I look at a 6-month span, I've spent from 16,000 to 30,000 in just bills. So, I mean, if you guys cut it down to where I only keep 25 in reserve, then we risk that being over.
25 in reserve.
Yeah, right now I'm reserving 32,369.
Oh, I see your reserves, okay.
I'm reserving pretty much
So-
everything we have in the bank.
All right, so this was,
So last year we got 410, we transferred 24,500.
Mhm.
that's 434,500.
And
But we know we have
but-
increases
yeah.
fixing to hit us
Right,
too.
and so we have so far, if I read this right, warrants issued 423, 386.17, and in reserve is 3,000, or
32,000.
32,369, as of today? Is that,
Yesterday's
as
date.
of yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, keep in mind, I haven't balanced with Troy yet, so
Sure.
there might be,
sure.
Some difference there.
So this is the 25,000 you want to keep in reserve?
well, I want to keep the
That's-
full 32,000, but if you guys decide to knock it down, I'm just letting you know, if you guys,
The reserve amount really is a flexible,
Right,
not a concrete
Right,
dollar amount.
yeah.
All she's indicating is that as of today, she doesn't anticipate any rollover.
I'm sorry, I was trying to add reserves and warrant issued to get back to net appropriations. Is that not balanced that way?
well, I kind of did this in a hurry, I won't lie, because I had such a short notice on it. I haven't balanced with Troy, so there could be some difference there for the month of May.
Right. I'm not arguing with the 25,000. I'm just trying to make the numbers.
Right,
fit.
no, well, that's what I'm saying, is these numbers,
Uh-huh.
this is what I pull out of my KelPro, but
Right.
they haven't balanced with Troy's numbers.
Any adjustments to POs for May, she doesn't have yet.
Right.
The question I have is a lot less technical than we're trying to get into right now.
Okay.
Do reserves plus warrants issued equal net appropriations? Net amount appropriations by excess board?
So Cynthia,
These two columns here, if I add these numbers together, should I get this?
It's probably not gonna be the exact
You,
same
you,
number.
you should,
I'm
but it,
asking, I'm
you
just
should,
asking, should I get it? I'm
you
not-
should, but it's off $8,000.
Okay,
And that
that's
could
all I
be
wanted.
because of adjustments to POs that she doesn't have
Right.
yet.
That's all, okay, that's all I wanted. So keeping the 25,000 in reserve is what you're asking for. I can,
No.
that's about 8,000, that's about the difference.
No,
is what
I'm asking for the full 32, if
Okay.
that's actually what's in there, but after I balance with Troy, then I'll have a better figure, it could be,
Around 25.
okay, 25.
And the thing is, that's really not it's just to indicate that she's not
Yeah.
putting any unencumbered money back into the pot. But
Right.
come June 30th,
There
once
might
the
be.
bills are paid, anything that is there is unencumbered will go to the pot. She's
Right.
just not anticipating it as far as this goes today.
Right.
so Cynthia, normally out of maintenance and operation,
Mm.
just give me some bills that you pay out of that.
Courthouse electric, courthouse gas, same thing for over here. We pay for the juveniles for when they go stay at the juvenile.
Shelters.
Yeah, juvenile. detention
And that's
center.
about 30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Why didn't that
Everything.
come out of the DA's revolving check fund? No.
From cleaning the floors to the electric work, anything that needs to be
Any
done.
maintenance.
Maintenance, anything that needs to be done courthouse related, building wise, it comes out of general government.
Striping, just did some striping.
Yeah. I mean-
Supplies, any,
Supplies.
Striping and stuff
Cleaning,
like that,
toilet
would that not
paper.
come out of capital outlay? or-
It wasn't
that's
big
really
enough.
not a fixed asset type thing. That's a small service that can be considered a maintenance.
The new automatic door openers came out of general government. And
So, last year we had 434,500. And, so do we need to add this 32 to that and ask for that again?
No, we need to add 5% for the raise that we think is gonna
We
happen.
know property and liability is
Yeah.
gonna go up, and
I think we
Well, we
paid,
wouldn't add 5% to the whole.
no,
budget.
to the amount we paid last year,
That was what, 100 and something?
106.
106.
164, I think.
Yeah.
So,
So $5,000?
But I think you bear in mind, we had to move 25,000 just to try to get through the end of the fiscal year. Now, some of that's gonna get turned back, but we don't know how much. We know there's gonna be an increase to the property and liability insurance premium. I think if you bear in mind the 5% on that, plus the 25 that we had to transfer to try to make sure we got through, you might be looking at an increase of 30, somewhere in there.
let's do that, let's do the 5% on the, workman's comp.
That's 5,000.
Property and liability.
So we'll add 5,000 there.
Okay.
We transfer 25 just to float through it, so we need to add that in.
Well, the 434, already has
Already has
included
that in there.
the 24.5 included.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about adding
So,
backwards.
445,
So that would be 439,000, 440,000, 440.
440.
How's that?
All right. Got anything on that, Pearson?
Yeah. 440, I'm good with.
You don't have capital
I
outlay
do
on
not
here?
have capital outlay on here. I am so sorry.
I can give you what numbers I have, real quickly. I gave you all these account summary sheets, to look at too. I think capital outlays beginning budget was 195-ish. Now-
I've got on I got 175,000 total appropriations for the year.
193,646. Can I see where you're looking at? Karen?
Sure.
And one of the biggest problems with this form, you're actually in the wrong column. This is fiscal year ending 13, this accounted.
Okay,
You need to be in this column.
all right. So we'll scrooge that over here. Not a problem.
So it should be 193,646.
It is, absolutely. Now that I'm in the right column.
And I'm sorry, I did not put that on your sheet.
That's okay.
The 25,000 that was moved to general government came from the capital outlay.
Yeah. So what are we doing this, what do we want to do this year on this?
And I will remind you that the capital outlay had kind of always been used as the county's rainy day fund of, it's not a set. If it came down, there was any extra money or whatever, it could go into that is kind of the way to save a little bit of money up. So it's kind of however you all want to.
So we transferred 25 out of this, so we just want the 168.6.
We had 193.64.
I wouldn't come down from the 195. Again, it's just a way of trying to put some money back.
I'm on the line, so 168.
Well, we say put some money back. I'm not sure we got any money to put back yet, so I mean.
Well, and we
we're
won't
just
know,
starting.
we won't know till it all comes together, that's for
So,
sure.
I'm a little bit apprehensive about putting money back in a lot of accounts before we know, and then have to go back and take it out, to redo it again.
I understand, just with this particular account has kind of,
195?
Everybody good with that?
How much did we spend this last year on this account?
195.
What did we spend out of it, Cynthia? Well, you didn't.
I didn't do it.
actually, I have
Because-
total, as of right now, total warrants of 675, and that's on the account summary sheets that I passed out.
On this sheet, right?
And then we moved 25,000 out of it last week. So basically, 26,000
Is what we're carrying over.
is what was
We took
used
out.
out of that 193.
Then why are we putting that much money in there if we don't use even half of it?
That's,
It has always been a funded account because of the emergency. We've had years that the plumbing completely collapsed and we ended up needing $30,000 to replace sewer lines or something like that. The general government capital outlay is that account to look at for that.
And last year we put what in there?
193.
193. Here's something that I wouldn't mind doing. Let's take that 193, divide it by 2, put half of it in capital outlay, and let's put half of it in a courthouse maintenance operation line. Just to do upgrades.
You are
on the
gonna need to
courthouse.
paint all that wood right there, and a lot of it's
It's
rotten.
actually a better, now we're budgeting for what we're gonna be doing.
I'd like to at least put, $70,000-$80,000 in the.
And the thing is, everything that falls in general fund, we can move. I mean, if we had that emergency like we've had in the
I agree,
past.
that courthouse needs a lot of repairs on the front. You and I
It
looked at
does.
that.
It does.
Yeah.
So,
We can do it in
I
increments
don't
like
need a
we
brick
did
falling
the
on.
windows.
Walking up there to get them.
so I guess what I'm asking you, Troy, 193, if we cut that in half, is that gonna?
Well, we only used,
That's how
what you
you
said,
serve.
25,000.
We got lucky this year so far,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that's,
I think a
What?
line item for building
90,000?
maintenance is
90,000
line
fantastic.
item for building maintenance.
I think that's a great idea. Again,
Absolutely.
you know, that account has always been the what if something went wrong, and there's been years we've had some big go wrongs and had to do repairs and.
Chimney fell down.
Okay, so how about this,
Mm-hmm.
a compromise, we put 100,000 in that account,
In
and
the
then we
cap-
put
In the capital
90,000, we put
outlay.
90,000 in the building maintenance account.
Okay.
90,000, okay.
I like it.
Yeah, I'll go for that. Make that 100 in the capital
We need to add a
outlay.
new line item.
Yep, got it.
Okay.
And then the second line is just the safety award, which, you know, the money gets put into this account, but it gets transferred to all the different accounts.
While we're talking about that, the safety board, again, that's one of those things that we have a safe year, we're supposed to, you know, it's an account, the way I understand it is to give back to the employees for being safe that year.
That's true.
One of the ways you can do that is, you know, my guys are asking me for steel-toed boots and that kind of stuff, pay for those, is that what it is?
They've looked at as separate items. The steel-toed boots are allowed to be bought and paid for,
I know they're, yeah. allowed
but it was
to-
never looked at as an award. The way Del Freck explained it to us, and these two might want to actually follow that up. The safety award program was established as an incentive, and you cannot base it on somebody having had an accident. It's just kind of one of those across the board as an encouragement
How
type
can it be an
award.
incentive if you give it to a person that had an accident?
Well, we were told
Ask
by
Dale.
Dale that we could not.
Well, then I would just as soon do away with the program altogether. If it's not fair, and it doesn't mean anything, it's just, we use the money someplace else.
That's up to you all.
I'm not ready to do away with it, not at this time.
So, I mean, it doesn't mean anything, right?
It does at the end of the year, they get an award for being safe, and it is a message to them that
Whether
safety
they're
is
safe or
there.
not, they get the award.
And
Everybody needs a trophy.
I do think it's appropriate. You know, steel-toed boots are something that's required by the county, and therefore we feel like that is something that needs to come out of M&O, because that is a requirement. Just like uniforms, we pay for the safety vest and various and other safety items. This comes under safety, and so therefore we feel that we need to provide that for our employees, just like we do safety vests.
You're using the term "we" pretty loosely there.
Yeah.
Where's the, what's the requirement, what county requirement is there? Where's that written? what-
There is not, you mean to receive the safety award?
For steel-toed boots, what's the county requirement for that?
I don't know that there is a written actual requirement.
Look,
Statute allows the commissioners
So
to
it's
provide.
allowed but not required, that's kind of where I'm going with this.
It's for county use. It's not required they have any safety gear either, huh? It's a safety item, so therefore.
I see Marvin's point on the safety thing. I mean, the people that ain't safe, they're still giving them the same thing you gave to the people that's.
So it's really not an incentive.
And, I mean, I also understand Del Freck's side of it. There's a lawsuit there if, you know, if you didn't. But, what I'm thinking on the safety, we're not knowing the budget yet. Maybe we ought to go ahead and plug that number in there. But if it comes down to the cutting time, and we need to cut something, I'd rather take the 30 and put with the insurance to cover the insurance for the employees, as I had given the safety bonus.
I can live with that.
I mean,
Okay.
we don't overpay the folks that work for us. I mean.
So
I
can
really like to
we
cover
put the money in the insurance fund and then transfer it to the safety board if we don't need it?
No, the safety award,
If we leave $10?
if you leave $10, you can. It has to be an activated account.
But, maybe we can still do the safety award, but talk to the attorneys and the safety director of ACTO and on that. Now, we're just only gonna give this out to the ones that is actually accidentally.
However you want to
I
do.
mean, I don't know.
I mean,
Now, maybe that ought to be something that Dale comes here and explains.
I don't know. I'm just,
Again.
I've got some folks over in our shop in the district that had a couple accidents this year already. And honestly, I don't want to reward them with a safety bonus this year. I mean,
I think
not
what,
that it's not punitive, it's just, how do I encourage other people to be safe if I give awards to people
I
that aren't
think where
being safe?
Dale was headed when he talked to us about it was you have to look at accidents just being accidents. And sometimes it happens, no matter how safe you try to be, something still happens. And that if you exclude somebody for something that essentially you can't place fault on, then that seems punitive as well. And so I think that's what he was explaining, that for this type of thing,
Backing
you use it more as,
Backing a road grader into a farmer's fence is probably something we could avoid.
Yeah. Or
but,
into a tree or-
so it's however, but just so I'm clear on what I'm putting down here, Monty, did I hear that you wanted to put the 30 in, but it's the first line item cut, should we have to cut, is that what you
That-
were
Yeah, if
intending?
insurance goes up or
That's
something
what
of
I
that
was
nature.
thinking, is go ahead and plug the number in there, then when we get down to the final number, if we have to, I'd rather move it to the insurance
Mhm.
as a safety. I think my guys rather me pay their insurance as get a little safety check at the end of the
Okay,
day.
so
Yeah.
we're actually gonna request the 30, but it would be the first on the chopping block if it needs to be.
That
In
was
order to
my
preserve
And
the
along the
health
insurance
insurance.
line, we're gonna still pursue looking at other means of insurance rather than just through ACA this next year as well. Right?
Yeah, I think we ought to check into workman's comp.
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
The folks down at Cleveland County have been doing some work on that. They
Right.
talked, at the last meeting, they mentioned that. And they haven't sent the information, but I just thought I'd bring that up to you.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have a problem with that, but I still do have a problem with just automatically writing a check to everybody at the end of the year, no matter how safe we've been or not been. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, maybe, say we left the money in the safety account, maybe we can write up standards that you have to meet this standard to be able to receive it.
I like that better than just carte blanche, here you go.
Yeah, here's a check.
Yeah. All right, I agree. Whatever we just said, I agree.
The next one that I have in you guys' stack is county commissioners account.
We don't need any of that.
And the first line item is salaries.
Well, I'd say that will probably stay the same.
I don't see any change coming. that I'm
So that's
aware
the
of.
three of us?
Unless Marvin wants to divide his in two and give me half of his.
Well,
Just help.
actually,
You can afford it.
these numbers included, because when this budget was done originally, Cynthia was on that account, and
Mhm.
she's been switched off, so
To general government?
I paid it.
on the 0800 account, this commissioner's
Oh.
account.
You pay her out of your account?
So Monty
Or
pays her
your
from
own?
his account in total, so that's gonna create the rollover money.
Mhm.
And if that stays that way, then it's down to just the 3 salaries for you,
What
3
I was-
coming from that account.
What I was gonna ask the board on that particular, I mean, she does all of my work, but I was gonna see, but she does all the general government work too. I was gonna see if the general government would pay her 6 months and I'll pay her 6 months. And then,
So about half the day is spent on yours and about half the day on the general government, is that
It
kind of how?
varies.
I mean, in general, just,
yeah, the general government hires somebody.
yes.
I just,
I
I was just gonna split it.
kind of like the idea of us all
We used
kind of
to.
working together to keep the annex part going, and I don't have a problem with the general fund paying half of her salary. I mean, she's our lead person, administratively here in the annex. And so, in that part, I think that justifies paying some of her salary out of the general fund, and if she's working for you, I do appreciate what you just said there about picking up half of it. And again, I don't have a problem with having our newest admin person, having her come over and help and spell when she needs to. I don't need the reimbursement to the general fund from that, because I don't plan on her being over here all that much, but just whenever Cynthia needs to help, so.
So I can clarify payrolls wise. This would be, for instance, July to December, we would leave her on the 0800 account, and then starting January to June, move her back to the Highway 3 account. Is that what you're looking at, Lonnie?
Yeah,
Doing a 6 month?
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, it works.
But I'd also like to plug in case we decide to give her a pay raise.
Well, if you,
So we're not too hurt yet, are we? Is she-
that account funds the salary of you 3 commissioners.
Okay.
Plus,
So that's gonna stay about the same.
Is that plus Cynthia's salary in here, is that?
What originally was
What?
budgeted included hers, and then she was moved off of it. That's what's gonna create the long on that account.
Currently,
If she comes back in at 6 months,
What is ours, 50?
what would that be?
What's in reserve, what you see written down in reserve,
Uh-huh.
that's for all 3 of you guys. So that's what's gonna come out of for the month of June.
Sure. What's our base?
4467, 4457.
4470,
That's gonna be real close.
a month?
Yes.
Times 3. $161.
447488 by her number here. So just the
Actually, that
commissioners,
looks 160, yeah. About 170,000, I think we could probably get by.
well, that would be for you 3, but if we need her for 6 months added on.
That's what I was trying to figure out, yeah. So 170 for us, and then 6 months.
And then we need a pay raise on her, maybe,
The 100 a month.
possibly.
That's not possible.
What is it?
That should happen.
I have to look.
I was just gonna say, I don't remember it either off the top of my head.
I honestly don't remember.
I think it's 2550.
Is that a year?
Per month.
Per month.
So if it went to 2650, but that would only be times 6,
Mhm.
15.9 to the 170.
2650.
Oh, 26, so it would be 2750 times 6. 16.5 to the 170.
$187.
Yeah. Is everyone good with that?
Let's go.
Yeah. 187.
Part-time, it was,
We're still gonna put $5 in there just to keep the account open.
Mm.
Travel expense,
Now this one gets a little trickier.
we'll just take a third off.
But here's the tricky part.
I already know where you're going. So I was thinking about that last night.
Right, so what the auditor said when Marvin took office and he didn't want to take his travel, he wanted it moved to spendable highway money. The only way we could do it, because it's general fund money, is we already had that highway budget account approved for this year. So we were able to move that 6 month of his travel to that account. That account has to stay in play, even if you don't get highway money. It would need to stay in play for the $7,200 for his travel to be allocated
And
to that account.
So we want to keep that open for $5 or something.
Well, actually, we're gonna allocate, for instance, when we get to that, if you guys ask for
I'll be right back.
100,000
We'll
each.
get some coffee. Well, you're explaining this, I
He
already
knows
know
where
what
I'm
you-
at. Okay, so this year you've got 300,000 in that highway account. And you can ask for that, but you're actually gonna ask for 307,500. We have to put the 7,200 of what would have been his travel to that account, because it can't go to highway. We can't change the funds.
Got it.
So the only highway account we have available in general to allocate that travel money to is that budget, that highway budget. It's very complicated, and it took me and Cheryl a minute to wrap our brains around how to make this work. But for his travel money to be waived off from him personally using it and to put it back on roads, the only way we can make that happen is to put $7,200 in the highway levy account
Got
of
it.
general,
Got it.
which would reduce, I think we got it, Marvin, which
Just took third off.
reduces, well, Mike is no longer taking travel. So really, it's $7,200 as you being the only travel expense.
But you don't have to take his and put in that account to transfer it?
Yes.
Well, we can do
Mine.
it that way, and that might be the better, is
I
to
think
do a
it's- I think
transfer.
it's the most, open way to do it.
The only thing we would have to make sure is when it all works out and it comes time, if the highway levy, if you do ask for some and say it had to be reduced, we have to leave $5. We have to leave it as an open account for us to be able to move that travel money.
So I'd say take the travel, take a third off, and that's what it'd be.
That's it.
So it'd be 14,400.
I don't know, I'm not sure about that. So what you discussed about taking money out of that is why? Why is it taken?
Because Mike ain't.
Mike is
Because
no
I'm
longer
not
driving
going on it.
travel.
Okay, so and the difference between what Mike's doing and what I'm doing, Mike is foregoing that in lieu of driving so the reimbursement goes away at that point, right? I understand now. Yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
It's
So-
14.
At 600 a month is 72, twice is 14,400.
Good. Maintenance and operations.
And maintenance of operations, just for, just anything that I think is specifically to the commissioner's part of my job,
This place?
for my office, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does that include the commissioner's conference room here in the office?
Yeah, I mean, I usually, all my supplies, I get them from general government, because the
Right.
lump of what I do comes out of general.
So, maintenance, it may not be for maintenance operation, it may have been capital outlay. I was thinking about a projection system for I was thinking about a projection system for this, and we had talked about overhead
Actually,
projection.
I had to look into trying to order one for myself today.
Yeah.
Um,
But, I mean,
That's a general government, not a commissioner's account. So
Okay.
that would be that 2,000, that 193,000 we just hashed
okay,
over.
okay,
Mhm.
then it's not, okay, this is a different deal, this is
Yeah.
for
Specifically to, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
All right.
Consumables.
Yeah.
well, a few years back, I ordered, I got a new desk and some more storage and stuff like that.
You bought these,
No, this was
No,
general.
this was
This was
general.
general, okay.
Yeah.
So-
So I only spent $250 this year.
out of maintenance and operation, or,
Mhm.
so, how do we pay for your automation systems? That's the computers and printers
General.
and.
General.
general
Because
gun.
of the lump of what I do is general,
Okay,
as far as,
So how come we went off and spent $250?
that's kind of where I was.
well, I can look, I can go back and look.
I'm just
I think I might have just spent some office supplies, I probably bought some office supplies, is what it was.
Okay.
I try to kind of not use everything, because.
Tell them that's where the safe came out of, that we bought.
No, I'm not a general, I think.
So you wanna leave it at 1,000, we wanna cut it down?
You guys can cut it down.
About 500.
Is that agreed, 500?
I'm on
That sounds good.
capital outlay, just leave $5 in there to keep the account.
I agree.
Check.
So now, right now, your computer system runs through the county assessor's system, is that?
Well, just the internet,
Just the internet portion of it?
yeah, and hopefully all that gets paid out of general.
The next deal will be charity, which is what we pay for the funerals out of.
Yeah, I need to add
$300
another $20,000 to this guy that died.
We hadn't spent anything till yesterday. I got a phone call, for a person. So that was 300. I just wanted to keep 300 in reserve in case I got another phone call, and then that would leave an encumbered 600. So I think we typically do 1,200, Last year or the year before, we used up the whole 1,200. but this year obviously we haven't.
If that allows for 4 incidents, is that what we're looking
But I
at?
think, was it last year or the year before, we ended up having to go transfer some money because we actually had one above what we had.
Because we
Yeah.
had to claim it.
Again, it's something you can't bank on.
Yeah,
How many people are gonna die that are gonna hit on it?
1,200?
1,200, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Highway levy account, this is, last year we asked for 100,000 per district.
Wanna do that again?
on this one, I wasn't sure, what you guys have spent out of your individual accounts because it went to each district. So I just put encumbered, unencumbered, 300.
I think I've got about 50 left.
Well, you're
Mine's-
encumbered.
mine's
It's actually on the sheets I passed out to you.
At the bottom.
District 1 does have 49.8 left in his account, the other two have spent all theirs.
Mhm.
I was gonna give safety races with mine.
Yeah, I paid roads with one. Paid they road.
I'm doing Cooks Road. But anyway, do y'all wanna ask for, if you don't ask for it, you ain't gonna get it.
I'm good for asking.
So out of the general fund,
Yeah, it comes out of the lump.
yeah.
sum. Normally in the past, Marvin, last year's the first time we ever got funded on this.
That's right.
Normally that's the first thing we cut, to make the budget deal work.
One-time item.
But what do y'all wanna do? My biggest thing this year, I just wanted to make a line item for courthouse maintenance. And maybe we shouldn't specify as courthouse, maybe courthouse annex.
I just think
Building
building maintenance is how I
Building
was going
maintenance will do
to.
all three of them. Right.
So that even covered my shop, then we do my shop.
Hadn't heard of that. Yeah, I need an addition on that. But,
So do you all wanna ask for the 300,000 on this?
might as well. And then you're gonna add 72 on it.
Well, actually, no, we put the
No.
72 over, we'll transfer it.
Okay.
We just need to remember that if it comes down that this were eliminated, we have to leave $5 so we can transfer.
Yeah,
At least in
that's
the
what I
District
thought.
1 highway budget account.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do y'all wanna do on it?
I really don't care if we leave it at 100,000. I'm pretty sure we're not gonna get that this year, with everything that I've heard that all the other.
That's true.
The state of this.
I don't see it happening either, but like you say, if you don't ask for it, you don't get it.
Well,
If it is available.
the kind of the way I look at it is, this is what's left over after we go
That
through the
is
budget
exactly
process
how
with
it
the whole
is.
county. Whatever's left over should go in here, split 3 ways. That may be, $1 million, it may be $5, but,
I agree.
Yep.
Let's just leave it in there.
As a place, right now, if we just agree to
300,000.
leave it there as a placeholder, is that
Yeah.
kind of?
Yeah.
what we're looking at?
300,000, don't let it go below $5.
300. And this one
This one gets a little
is.
crazy.
Yeah.
All these numbers come from Troy's office. On
These
your-
are all payroll driven numbers.
Yeah.
Right. This is the fringe I was talking about.
Yes,
earlier.
yes, and.
How many employees approximately does this cover?
Well,
I'm sorry to ask all these silly questions, I'm just trying
no,
to
no, you're fine,
math to figure out per
here-
employee what it costs.
Here's where we are. The countywide, we have about, the last payroll was 155 employees, but not all of those are paid from general.
Okay.
And that's the part I didn't think to break down. But I can give you a real rough here and just, let me
Sure,
I'm
good.
do this here real quick. And I know I'm forgetting some.
Well, workman's comp's going up 5%.
And I have that number, I had Dusty email it to me. I'm going to, this is really rough, say there's 56-ish employees tied to the general. However, let me clarify that that would only be for the FICA account, the retirement account, The unemployment, the workman's comp, and the health insurance is all county employees. Scratch. The unemployment and the workman's comp are all county employees. The health insurance is all county employees, less those that are paid from the jail operations account, as the jail operation account picks up their health insurance. So, you know, we're kind of a confused lot there in what comes. If we start with the workman's comp, that's gonna be the easiest. I have an email, we haven't got the bill yet.
So I was looking at, the total on this is $1,429,378. And that's why I was kind of wanting to know the total number of employees, because now I can get an idea of what it costs per year for fringe for a permanent employee. You know,
However, we'd have to break down, because, let me use an example of your employees. Your highway funds, your 6110 account pays their retirement and their FICA,
Mhm.
that part of it.
Okay.
County general, these accounts are paying their workman's comp, their unemployment, and their health insurance.
Right.
So you have that, where part of it may be coming from one fund and part from another, in that. That was one of the things County General did several years ago, that the highways were looking for help and kept asking for that levy account, and there was never any money. So one of the ways that County General tried to help relieve a little bit with highway was picking up the unemployment and the workman's comp costs. Highway used to cover that for themselves. Generals picked that
Saved
up.
me about $5,000 a month. when I got
Yeah,
this.
I'm good with that. I'm just trying to get in my mind what it costs us for an employee.
Well,
I can tell you, I ran the numbers overall, taking out of the who pays, what fund
Right.
pays. For every 2,000 in salary, it costs us about $3,000 in actual money.
So it's $1,000 fringe on
Yeah.
$3,000.
Yeah. The first item she's gone on her is workman's comp. Now, obviously, that's not one we have a choice of. I do have an email from Dusty as the bill has not come out. The total bill will be $172,597.
172, what?
$597.
Okay.
well, we need to plug that in there.
Yes.
It's not
Well,
much
that's
to pay
fine.
that.
Then start looking for another workman's comp
Yeah.
insurance provider.
Unemployment is a 1% of gross. So when we give raises or we hire new employees or we have any shift, it affects that number. We owe another, the quarter ends at the end of June, so I'm allotting a $10,000 on that, which leaves a rollover, over and above of 7379. Again, raises, additional employees heavily affect these percentage items. We budgeted 35,000. I would recommend at 37 in anticipation of the salary increases or any new hires. The one thing with these particular accounts is funding them long, while it may take away from the budget process a little bit, it does give us that cushion. For many years, we would run short annually and we were out scraping money and finally had worked to a point where we had a good amount of cushion, because it doesn't go anywhere, it goes back into the pot to be reallocated. On that. So that's kind of where we are on the workman's comp.
So you're just gonna raise it $2,000?
If it's not used, it doesn't go anywhere. It's not a wasted money. It will go back to help for next year. You know, it's however y'all want to look at it. This unemployment account funds 100% of the county employees.
Right. So we had 35,000 warrants issued, 17,600, that leaves 17,380.
That
Left, right.
10,000
Uh-huh.
is going to be spent at the end of June. That we still owe this next quarter. Will have to come out of this money.
Okay.
And that would leave where I wrote in the 7379 as the unencumbered that rolls back to the pot.
So, yeah, okay. So why do we need to raise it again?
Well, it's just that anticipation of not knowing, where we're gonna end up at the end of this process with what additional hires may be made or any salary increases. Unemployment is based on the gross wages paid, so that number fluctuates as that number goes up and down. These particular accounts, the FICA, the retirement, unemployment, and the health insurance have always been ones we've cushioned very well because the money didn't go anywhere. It's not going to be spent anywhere else. It would roll back to refund for next year if it went unused. It's just kind of the way it's.
To refund what next year?
In other words, what goes unspent is just part of the pot
Yeah,
for
it
next
goes-
year.
It just goes back into the
Into
general fund, not.
the next
it doesn't-
year's
It doesn't
budget.
go back into,
Not directly, but it goes back, right.
but it just all goes
For
back into
budget.
the general fund to a big pot again.
Just like this one is.
And so it's unutilized that year, basically.
It's a cushion.
Okay. Let's issue.
So if we end up being short next year, what do?
What do you mean being short?
If you just do the 35 and then it ends up being 36,
We'd have to go borrow, get some money from some other account within the general fund.
Does that have to go before the excise board again? Because
No, it's a transfer within the
It's a
fund,
transfer within the fund. Okay.
which we did year after, my first years here and working in the payroll part of it. We were moving money every May to make up what we were gonna need to get through the fiscal year.
So we're carrying over how much, Dawn?
On unemployment, I anticipate about 7,400. That 10,000 I know is a high guess on the reserve, but until the month's over, I don't have an accurate number.
So chances are if we put in 35, we'll be okay.
Chances are 35 wouldn't make it.
Okay, so warrants issued, I've added this up based on the appropriations, right? So on appropriations, we had 1,429,000. Warrants issued is 1,048,000. So there's almost $400,000 there that we kind of had as a cushion within all of those accounts, right? So
The health insurance is a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, right. So, I mean, still, it appears to me like there's about a $400,000 cushion there to start.
If you look at the fund in total.
In total, right.
Right, but you don't know. You know, you have to look, all the accounts that fall within that general fund, if they spend every penny allocated to them come June 30th, then that
But
money doesn't
historically-
roll over.
But historically, that hasn't been the case, so.
No, but historically, the cash fund forward balance, or the cash balance forward, the majority of that has come from these payroll fringe accounts.
Well, I say, I'm okay with 35. If I'm gonna overfund something, it'd be the employee health.
Absolutely.
And that's,
Right, but we're on, okay, so on the unemployment, you're saying leave it at the 35? I honestly think the 35 is going, I don't anticipate at 1% of gross putting us,
Just leave it at 35.
but when you're talking approximately 150 employees countywide, fluctuating wages will,
So, I mean, we put 35, leave 35 in it, we need 35.5, I mean,
We
just
can move
transfer
$500.
$500, right, okay.
absolutely.
Okay. I guess that was the whole reason for my adding up all of everything in there. I mean, there's almost $500,000 of fluff built into this already, so. over all those accounts, that we can move between the accounts.
As long as it's within the fund,
We
yeah.
can move between these accounts, right? Okay.
So the next on the list, in the order Cynthia has them on hers, is the retirement account.
Mhm.
Again, we have this month, yet to go.
Yeah, so my numbers don't reflect the month of June.
And I'll be honest with you, I picked up the wrong, that 27 is not correct. That was half the month, so it's probably, I've reversed them. 54,000 is the anticipated need for June, leaving. I rewrote these a dozen times this
Yeah.
morning.
So, I mean, that leaves,
About a 30,
yeah, 30,000.
little less, about 27,000 rollover.
Yeah,
Now, remember with retirement, the percentage of it on wages is 16.5%, so it's a large amount of fluctuation based on new people and any salary increases.
What y'all wanna do?
well,
Do you see any offices just jumping out hiring?
I know that I intend to request an additional employee myself. That, whether I get it, but I am going to request.
The employees that Regina has.
Now, that's our big fluctuation there, is what the court fund does to Regina. If she has to put in a request to move her staff to the county side, we will absorb that we don't now, and that's gonna have a huge fluctuation on that.
Do you know how many employees that could be?
I don't. I believe she's paying 5 out of her revolving fund.
I mean, that's not something that's just gonna affect our county.
Oh, it's statewide, it's every county, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, I mean, just to roll over and say, oh yeah, I guess if the court system doesn't wanna pay for it anymore, I guess the county has to. I'm not sure that's the way, I'm not willing just to lie down and say, yeah, we're gonna do it 100%, just tell us what you want us to pay for.
But I think that, we don't know what she's gonna request, so you know.
So we all need to work together to make it work.
Oh, absolutely,
But,
absolutely.
Just for, I mean, be like another elected official saying, I've been paying for this out of my account all the time, but I don't wanna do it anymore, you guys pay for it. I mean, we probably should talk about that first.
Oh, I agree, I'm just saying that is something that is a possibility that she may ask to be funded. Those employees that are currently funded through the court revolving fund, the county pays
Right.
their health insurance, but none of the other costs.
So, again, for all of these, the retirement, the FICA, and the health, the things that we haven't discussed yet, I mean, all of those together, workman's comp, unemployment, we still have baked in here almost $400,000
Mhm.
in overages, right? So, do we really need that kind of fluff in this account?
Well, I don't think it's a fair characterization to call it fluff. The retirement is 16.5% is the employer cost. So, again, if the pay raises are granted that are gonna be asked for, things like that is going to heavily impact that account.
How much?
Well, 16.5% times the wage.
How much? We're trying to do budgets, I mean, just
You
to
know,
say,
If
it's
you
gonna
get
go up a
$100,
bunch and we
if you
need
get
to
$100,
keep it
if you give someone $100 raise, it's gonna cost you $116.50 just for the
up. I
retirement,
understand the math.
you know? I can't nail you down that exact, how many employees are gonna be here and what their wages are exactly. As far as the fluff on this account, part of it, and we haven't got to the health insurance part yet, but when you offer a health insurance benefit to your employees, you have to fund that as if every employee took the maximum benefit that you've allowed. What happens is we do that, and then we have employees that for whatever reason don't use the full benefits, so that creates part of that, but you still have to fund that health insurance as if every employee is gonna take the maximum benefit allowed.
Well, there's your fluff.
But as far as the retirement, I mean, if you would rather look at staying with the numbers we had last year and then just look at how the year flows, and if we have to move and do some transfers to balance out, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of tying up a whole bunch of money in what-ifs on budgets. I mean, that's what, we're here to help manage budgets.
But
Yeah, it's a-
there is also a what if you have to look at. What if the ceiling fell in today? We would need to make sure there was money available to pay for what ifs.
What if the hole opened up under the courthouse and it was gone tomorrow?
There you go.
Everybody would applaud, right? So I don't know.
I don't know, but
We
the
do a lot
roof
of
did
ways.
fall in on this one, ceiling did.
You know, several years ago it did.
Yes, it did.
The sewer lines collapsed.
Things were lines
years
that
ago.
collapsed.
So what we gonna do?
On retirement, keep it at 360.
That's fine.
Or do we want to increase it because we want to get more personnel?
Well, we don't know that we're gonna get that.
But I say keep it at 360.
And we'll get it next year if we don't spend it. Put it in the budget again.
So where we at?
$360, Marvin?
I think probably 300 would be closer, but
Well, I will, you're only looking at a $27,000 carryover now. To cut it $60,000?
We better leave it at 360.
well, I didn't see that in the sheet I'm looking at.
Mhm.
There it is. 27.
And I flipped those numbers. 54 is the anticipated
Right.
use for June, with the 27 left unencumbered.
So I say 360. Say you?
I'm good with 360. It's not much carryover.
It isn't.
It's better than 380, so I guess so.
We'll leave it at 360. No big deal. Pull from one of these other accounts if it goes over. So FICA,
It's the same story.
Same
It's
story.
percentage base, 7.65% times gross wages,
leave it the same.
and I would be fine with that.
The carryover on that's
Yes, sir.
$8,000. So you know, Bob,
Where we at?
FICA. We got 8,000 carryover and,
I thought we were just talking about that.
Oh, we were talking about retirement.
so this is 162.
Oh, okay, never mind, workman, I went from work to workman's comp, okay. fine.
Her order's different than the order of the printout.
Yeah.
62's, yeah, yeah. It's a little high, I mean, but, yeah,
Say again?
Let's leave it the same.
Same, 162 it is. Employment health,
And this is, again, your big one, because you have to fund it. If you're offering $559, which is this year, as a monthly benefit, you have to fund it as if every employee takes it. Now, the reality of that is not every employee spends $559 a month, but I do think that you have to fund it if you offer it.
right. Well, is the county commissioners insurance come out of that?
Not for health insurance.
Right.
This fund pays everybody in the county excluding
Huh?
those that are paid by the jail sales tax. They pay their own health insurance. That was the
So-
agreement, but your
so-
employees are.
Monty's
Yes.
personal health care
Yes.
is coming, right. So I'm one of those people that you're not paying for. that we're not paying for.
Exactly, exactly. But we've always looked
Right,
at, and
right,
it
I
was what we
understand.
were advised to do.
Right,
I guess
and
some,
I appreciate that too. I just, again, we're advised to cover, I like to have enough money in the bank to write the checks at the end of the year, but I don't want to have twice as much money in there that we need to write checks. That's all I was looking at.
But the fluctuation, and yes, there's about 100,000, and like I said, that kind of explains where we get that year-end over, it comes from that account, because of looking at it as, if you have 150 employees, you're gonna tell them you can spend, well, and we've actually ran into this, Marvin, if you don't mind me using
Yeah, go
you as an
ahead.
example.
Go ahead.
You didn't take the health insurance, but
Right.
let's say something happened and you suddenly needed it, you come in, which is your right to do. I lost my coverage here, I need to pick it up here. So that's why we've always looked at that as full fund, across the board. What doesn't get spent, goes back into the process for the
Right.
following year, because I'm not gonna say quite often, but at least a few times a year, I do have an employee that had been covered under a spouse's, they lost it, they needed to come on to our plan.
It boxes quite a bit.
I've got a rich uncle that pays for mine.
Pardon me?
I've got a rich uncle that pays for mine.
Yes,
Uncle
so
Sam.
that's kind of that big fluctuation with that health insurance.
From the military side. That one. So what have we got baked into this total? About 100,000?
Yes, and the other thing.
And that, I mean, I understand that. That's-
Okay.
That's not bad, that's.
One
the size
other
of the
thing
account.
is we have no idea yet what premiums will go to for calendar year 16. Last month, I think we ended up bumping $18 a month. The goal with the health insurance has been to cover health choice.
So here's, I'm okay with leaving it like it is for right now, with a note. So I want to put a note here, right? So we can come back and revisit this approximately March next year, right? So we look at what we've spent, what we've got left, and what we think we can project it into the year. And if we've got an extra $90,000 that we can spend that year, that's in this account, out of the general fund, then I think we should come back and talk about it, rather than just letting a lot of stuff fall over into the next year. And,
Okay.
I mean, that's, on some of the federal accounts and big, big federal systems and accounts that I've helped with, that's kind of the way they would do that, is before the end of the fiscal year, where everybody went into the spend it before you lose it mode. And they kind of all got together and said, well, these are the accounts we're looking at, this is what we look at, we can possibly move into the general fund for other things that we need to do this year. That's kind of what I was looking for.
If I
Go
may,
ahead.
one thing to consider when you're going to establish what you're going to request for this account. The plan has been, since we first got health insurance, to try to make the monthly benefit to cover the cost of Health Choice Highs option, Health Choice Dental, the disability plan that we all have to take, the vision plan of VSP, and the first 2 units of life insurance. Now, new premiums have not been released from the state at this point in time. Currently, we're at $559 a month to cover that. Last year, the increase was about $18 per month to meet those increased premiums. If this board still wants to look at the possibility of continuing to increase the benefit to keep that, then that is something to take into consideration with this request too, because I will not know the premiums. Before the budget is settled, I should know the premiums for 16, but I currently do not have that information. And then back to what is left in March to be able to spend. The one thing, this is it. This is all the money the county has. And so when you're looking at that cash forward, that as the auditors want to call it, risk management, what plans are in place to have enough money if for some reason one of your big funding sources or something dried up? Where are you going to do? We're not allowed by law to have a rainy day fund, so we're not allowed to set a millage that goes off separately. County government does not have that, so you have to kind of set up some other things. The budget maker last year mentioned that one of the counties that he does has set up, and I forget what they called it, some other, in the general account, that they would, you know, fund a set 50 or 60,000 to as that risk management, as that if everything, where are you gonna get some money? And try to build up essentially what I think normal people would call a savings account.
Yeah.
That was the county highway fund. Go ahead.
So that's kind of part of what, with that cash fund forward,
Mhm.
has plays that
Yeah.
role as
So
well.
my example happened, I mean, that's with a professional comptroller looking at all accounts across all, so, yeah. I can see where the county government may
Well, I think we
not
ought
want to look at it that way, some of the people.
to, on the health insurance, if we have to pick up 5 employees out of Regina's office, I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna smoke up that money pretty rapidly.
It is.
So,
Well, scratch. We already cover those 5 for health
Oh,
insurance.
that's right, that's right. They
So we-
cover
For
everything
health
else.
insurance, we cover those.
so I guess I don't understand that they're state employees.
The state is funding their gross wage, the unemployment, the retirement, and the Social Security and Medicare part. When we finally were able to get health insurance for the employees here, that funding wasn't allotted through her, so we picked those up. We pick up this account here, this exact account covers the health insurance for all employees countywide, less and except, and I'm gonna use 30 as an average number, that the jail funds on their own, because that was the agreement when, and that was the agreement when the jail, there was no way county general could pick up the health insurance on 30 new employees that were hired,
Nor
so.
should they.
Mhm.
So the sales tax that funds that jail operations for those employee costs is funding the health insurance. Otherwise, this account picks up everyone, highway, court fund, all of it.
So are we good with the 708 and go back and reevaluate this later in the year and see how much money we got left over?
When will you have the new rates?
I'm hoping by sometime in August,
So chances are you'll have them before we're done with all this.
probably.
Let's just leave it at 708 today then, and
Was this 59?
Now, Troy,
That's actually what I anticipate to spend at the end of this month.
Oh, okay.
I refresh my memory, if I turn in all these numbers, right?
They're not
here,
concrete.
We can adjust them whenever.
Absolutely, as the process comes through, I mean, that's how it works. Once all the numbers are in and you see that you have available funds of this and these added up to this, then you gotta make them balance.
We just gotta remember that if it goes up, then they.
This is really, the easiest way to explain this is your wish list. This is what the officers are gonna
Right.
hope to get, and
What else we already do that?
So 708?
That was too easy.
I'll make a motion that we're gonna start off with them numbers. I ain't gonna say we're gonna wind up with them numbers. That's what we'll start
Yes,
with.
and a need.
need a second.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Item 5, consideration and possible action on encumbering $75,000 from CDRI.
If you'll
This
approve,
is what we've already approved, now we're talking about approving the money, the transfer. right?
we approved the commitment list. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
Okay.
just wanted to encumber.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
This
was-
is not different than what we've
No,
already talked
no.
about.
I looked at all of the, had my nose in these numbers and forgot to bring the requisitions, so.
To sign? Yeah, okay.
Can you take the action and then I'll get you the form?
I so move we approve
Thank
this
you.
action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any citizen to be heard? Hearing none, comments, announcements, questions by the board?
No, I mean, the only thing, it's really nothing to do with this board, but we need to have a special meeting for the trust. Probably Friday, maybe Friday, 3 o'clock.
That was what I was told.
Mhm.
Friday, 3 o'clock.
That's gonna be for the Public Works Trust.
And you'll cancel your regular meeting of the
Probably
15th.
gonna cancel the 15th.
Well, that's this Friday the 5th.
Mhm.
At what time?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock works for me.
Just to get us started on the system anyway.
How many bridges you up to now that are out?
Well, completely, totally lost is one. It's a 60-foot bridge.
Uh-huh. Whoa,
I figured,
really?
you know, if you got a contractor in there build it, you know, the cheapest you get out is about 150. They probably got 7, well, probably about 11 with the approaches are gone. Wing walls is washed off.
Mm.
Couldn't tell you how many tin horns. Bunch. They average anywhere, they say 7 to 8 inches up in that neck of the woods. You can sure see it right down there.
Down the road,
Mile
huh?
over the creek, you know.
I live in fear of those. I see them hitting other counties and, they hit your district. Boy,
Just
man, when
the
we got
thing.
12 inches, man,
One day at a time.
in like, what was it, about 6 hours that we got 12 inches that one time? And wiped out part of I-35. Well, I say wiped it out, did stop it. They had to do some serious repairs on it.
We'll survive. But we did contact FEMA, I think they're gonna be up tomorrow to look at some of the.
Good.
Not that I wanted to.
They're gonna look at any of yours tomorrow, or?
Yeah, we've got two, well, at least two. I've also got I've got about 4 spots that I need to look at, but I've got 2 real bad issues. One's the Cottonwood Bridge we lost over on sewer, that's gone.
That's gone.
That's gonna be a couple of year deal, getting that put back in, I think.
Did structural damage to that on?
What it did.
Is that sewer?
Yeah, Seward Road, right past the church there on this side of the railroad tracks. What happened is the Cottonwood comes in there from the west to east, makes a circle around the road and comes back and goes back west. So it makes a big circle underneath there. Normally, what you have your erosions on the outer bank when that comes through like that. But what happened here, for some reason, is it got a whirlpool underneath the western bank, the western side of that bridge, and cut the bridge button that's out from underneath it. So all that's standing there holding that bridge up from the road is the steel piers that were drove in where the road's at. And that could fall apart and that whole road could collapse, and the whole bridge could collapse without that being fixed. And then it also washed out the riprap on the northwest side of the road, approach road, and cut that road in half. So that road just fell in. So there's absolutely no way to pass that road right now. So we have to close it.
That's gonna be federal highway then.
It's gonna be something, it's a main collector. I mean, it's
The major collector
a
road.
major collector.
And that would be with federal highway. Yeah.
You know, it's either that or we get out there with a whole bunch of wheelbarrows and shovels.
They've done that before.
I was telling Marvin earlier that I'm meeting with NRCS tomorrow. They've got some money maybe available for erosion problems, protecting roads and bridges and what have you, but maybe even some debris cleanup, out of creek.
It's nice they have some funding.
I don't know how much, but meeting with them tomorrow, we're gonna take a little tour and see what I got, see if anything qualifies.
Good,
So y'all might wanna contact them.
good.
Is that lady that, I talked to a lady at the Broadway Cottonwood Bridge when we were looking at that a couple of months ago with Shannon from ODOT. Trying to get riprap for.
Is her name
for that.
Anna?
But, yeah, I think so, I think it was.
Yeah,
But
and
unfortunately, where we needed to put the rock was outside of our right-of-way area, so they weren't interested in helping at that point.
mhm.
This NRCS, I think they'll go outside
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, you have to get some kind of right of way.
Yeah.
Landowner permission?
I'm sorry?
Landowner type permissions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, this
By the way.
lady, the lady that owns this land would be more than happy for anybody to pay attention to her.
I imagine.
Yeah, Shannon's tired of answering the phone.
This is, and I think her name's Deanne out of.
Deanne, that's it.
Yep, yep.
Deanne.
I've talked to her too.
Yeah, she's
All right.
one that controls that.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Die.